Just 2 years ago, I was a broke college student at ASU working at Fleming Steakhouse as a host. I remember one night getting a $100 tip from somebody and almost breaking down crying because that's how I was gonna afford Christmas presents for my family. Fast forward today, I'm 21 years old. I work with an OnlyFans agency that does over $400,000 a month profit. I live in a penthouse in Tempe, Arizona. I drive a sports car. I get to be around beautiful women daily. I work from home, and now I have complete freedom and control over my life. In this video, I'm gonna walk you through my entire journey from being a broke college student to managing and marketing for a six-figure a month agency. I'm gonna show you the exact moments that changed everything, the exact wake-up call that led me to drop out of college to pursue my dream, how I learned this system from the ground up, and all the systems that I use personally that separates me from everybody else in this workspace. If you want to escape the 9-to-5 trap, if you want to work online, if you want to manage your own time, your own work, and have complete control over your life, this is the video you need. Now, if you're new to the space, you might be asking, what is OFM? OFM stands for OnlyFans Management, and that regards to the website OnlyFans.com. OnlyFans.com is a subscription-based website where creators can go on and sell their content for a price and exclusivity. So on OnlyFans.com, you can either have a free page or a paid page. A free page means anybody is free to subscribe and look at anything you could post, or they can message you for free. A paid page means in order to subscribe and have access to the creator, the fan has to pay a set amount that you set per month, and then they will have access to the content and the subscriptions. Now, with OnlyFans.com, you might have heard of it. There are a lot of female creators and also male creators that sell their explicit content on there. That is where we make a lot of our money. That is where we make all of our money. We essentially, as an OnlyFans agency, we sell the content for the creator. A creator doesn't have all the time in the day in order to manage all of the systems that needs to go into this platform. So that's where the agency comes in. As an agency, we manage getting the fans, we manage all the sales, we manage the wall posts, we manage everything on the feed, we manage everything in the messages. We essentially run the page for the model for a percentage that the model gives up. Now, what this is beneficial for is this gives the model a lot more free time in order to just focus on creating content and in order for the agency to sell. Now, as an agency, we have to live up to the promises that we are giving the model essentially. Now, as an OnlyFans manager and someone running an agency, you are managing creators daily. You are checking in with the creators and their content. You are making sure these creators are making social media content to push out. You are running back-end systems through Telegram. You are running chat teams potentially, and you are running PPV campaigns. Now on the website, you have the ability, if you're a free page, you have the ability to set PPVs. And these are sent through either the messages or the wall posts. And these are items that you attach to the post that you lock for a price, and the fans can pay the price in order to view the content. So as a manager, we make sure these go out all the time, every day, as well as chatting. When you're chatting, that means you are essentially sending out mass messages, which goes out to all fans subscribed to the page, and you're responding to all the fans and driving through sales. Now, agencies are huge in this world now. A long time ago, when OnlyFans just started around 4 years ago, like right before COVID, there was a lot of solo creators out there that were able to do this on their own and make a lot of good sustainable money on their own. Now there are teams regarding almost every creator and that run these systems in order to be successful. Now the industry has evolved. Around 4 or 5 years ago, when the platform just began, creators were able to hop on the platform, do everything themselves, and make a lot of money that way. But today, with thousands and millions of creators on the platform today, you need certain systems in order to succeed, and that's where we come in. We provide those systems to these creators that they don't know about, and that they don't have the time to learn and do themselves most of the time. There are creators who can, but we're able to provide that to these creators so they can have their time focused on creating the valuable content that these pages need. We take struggling creators and we build them and their pages into brands with consistent income. It's a real business model that works, and that's why it's valuable and important to know. And that's why you are ready to get to learn it. Now let me tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in a pretty normal middle class home, and I'm very grateful for who I grew up with and my family and everything they've taught me. But as I was growing up, I always knew I wanted to be different. Whenever in school I would get asked what I want to be when I grow up, I never had an answer. I just knew I wanted to run a business or do something myself. I never wanted to be an employee under a boss. I wanted to be my own boss. Growing up, even when I was younger, I would try to do lemonade stands. I remember I would sell shoes. I would, at one point in high school, I made a clothing brand, and that was my first real business that I got started. I used to make music. That was fun. I'm still very passionate about music, but I used to make music, and I would try to do that as well. In college, I tried drop shipping and day trading. I've tried essentially everything. I just knew deep down inside that I wasn't an employee. I worked at a warehouse for around a year or two, and the whole time I was there, I would listen to podcasts about people who are wealthy, their mentality, and how they got to where they were, and I just knew that's where I deserved to be at. I would look at the other employees who were content and happy with their position and be like, man, I really wish that will never be me. I never wanted to be that 50-year-old guy still working in the warehouse, living check to check. I always wanted to be that young kid who made it. You know, my family, they weren't business owners, they were employees, but I just knew I wanted to be different. My parents had a very traditional mindset, so they knew the classic path of going to school, going to college, getting a good 9-to-5, raising a family. That's how you live your life. But me, I always knew that there was more to life than that, and that's what you should always chase. If you know there's more to life, then you should always chase that dream. And you know, I didn't have it figured out at all. I've never had this figured out. Every day I wake up and be like, how am I gonna make it? And that's a part of the process. You're not supposed to wake up and know how you're gonna make it. You're supposed to figure it out along the way. You're supposed to take risks. You're supposed to fail. The most essential part in doing things is failing. You have to fail. I 100% think you have to fail in everything in order to learn, because that's where you learn and that's where you grow and you get better. I've always had a high work ethic. You need to be motivated and have a high work ethic in order to succeed, because think of how many people are out there and think of how many people have the same 24 hours as you and are making the most of it. We have to make the most of the time that we have here. I realized that early that I didn't want to work as a 9-to-5, so whenever I got home, I would work on a side business. So a 9-to-5 isn't bad at all, 100%. It's not bad. You need to work at a 9-to-5 in order to learn and in order to maybe get an initial income in order for you to grow your business. So if that's what you're doing right now, props to you 100%. You have the right mindset. You are exactly where you need to be. You need to be having that initial income in order for you to grow your business. I personally believed I was meant to save my family. You know, other than my main family, everybody else outside didn't have the best situation, weren't the best financially. I never had rich cousins or rich grandparents. I remember being younger, I would stay with my grandparents a lot of the time, and I remember asking for Burger King, and my grandma would have to sit on the stairs and go through all her coins in order to afford me a meal. So I believe that I was always meant to save my family, and I was always meant to leave a legacy. That also came with pressure. I'm the oldest kid out of three kids. I have 2 siblings. I have a younger brother and a younger sister, and that comes with a lot of pressure. But pressure makes diamonds, and it's good to have pressure. I've experienced being able to sit and not have any pressure, and it's not fun. You know, I like the challenge. I like being able to overcome challenges, especially at a young age when you learn freedom and control and becoming valuable. You want to have that pressure in order to push you to be better. And also, make sure you surround yourself with the right people. You know, everybody I surrounded myself with when I was growing up, they didn't have the same mentality as me, and it kind of brought me down. You know, if you surround yourself with winners, you're not forced to do anything but win along them. If you're surrounded with winners, you have to catch up. There's no way you cannot catch up. So imagine putting yourself in an environment where everybody is winning and everybody is where you want to be. Eventually, just being in that environment will get you there. You know, and I'm very grateful. My father taught me when I was younger, he told me, I will always stick with me, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that's how I even got in this position today. So put yourself out there, talk to people, network with people, get to know people. Knowing the right person can make you millions of dollars. I have a vision that I can create something that outlives me, and that's why we're here today, and that's why I'm here to help everybody out. Now, there was a moment in my life that changed my perspective on everything forever. Before I even got to college, this was around my junior year of high school, I was in bed sleeping, and then I remember waking up to sounds of crying, screaming, yelling, banging, and it turned out a friend of mine from high school had been murdered that night that I was asleep. Now, this changed my perspective on everything forever because it taught me that life isn't promised no matter what age you're at. This was junior year of high school, so we were around 16, 17 years old. I had known him since I was in 4th grade. I grew up with him. I watched him grow up. We all grew up together, went to the same school, went to the same high school. Now, this was a life-changing moment for me because this was somebody I grew up with, somebody my age, and it showed me that not tomorrow is promised, not every day is promised, and that we have to make the most of the days that we have now. If I'm not making the most of today, I'm gonna go to bed upset because this is something that I will never get back. Time is always pushing forward, and you have to make sure that you're always doing things that push you towards where you wanna be in life. So this taught me that life is very valuable. And you know, when I get unmotivated or I get lazy, I just sit back and I think about how much life that he missed out on. He missed out on so much life. He was murdered when he was 16 years old. It's been around 6 years since then. But yeah, you can always miss out on life. And I think back at the amount of life that he's missed out on and how grateful I am still to be here and being able to push towards my goals and my dreams, and that my time isn't up yet, thankfully. And you know, it just it gives you a lesson and a responsibility that you have a job to do, and this is the job that you're supposed to do is live your life to the fullest, and don't let your dreams just be dreams. You have to push towards them and make them a reality and make it a life that you love to live, because this is your only time and only chance at life. And if you're not happy living it, then what's the point? I will never be happy with my life if I'm working a 9 to 5 and slaving away for a paycheck every week. So that's where you have to take the risk, you have to take the jump, you have to take the leap of faith to try to do what you want to do and to never give up. Be as resilient as possible, be as motivated as you can, because there's other people at life that never even got that chance. But after this, I attended Arizona State University here in Tempe, Arizona. I lived on campus, so I lived at the dorms, and I strategically set up my classes. So I had 3 days of classes, and the rest of the week I was able to work if I got a job. I had to quit my warehouse job, and the warehouse job, it let me touch a little bit of money, you know. I was 17 years old, and I had saved up probably most at once $6,000, and that was a lot of money to a 17-year-old at a time. And so when I got to ASU, I was just used to working all the time, and I wasn't able to work anymore for the warehouse because it was across the city. It was 40 minutes, and it would have just never worked out. So it brought a new hunger for me when I was at ASU, because I knew going to classes. I remember this one thing. I was in one of my lectures, and this dude in front of me pulled up his bank account. It was a lot to me at the time, but he had $15,000 in his bank account, and I was like, man, I am behind. You know, if somebody in my lecture is able to pull that up, I felt really behind. So I remember always looking for an opportunity, looking for a job while I was still at ASU, and I was supposed to work for a car dealership. I wanted to get into car sales really bad. I knew I wanted to do sales, but car sales was the path I was gonna take. And in the application process and the interview process, they gave me a sales course. So I took like a 3-day sales course, but they ended up not hiring me because of my school schedule. I wasn't able to work all the time. I had school to go to, and so it just wasn't gonna work out. So after like a month or two of not having a job, I finally found another sales job. This time I was selling charity. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea how I got paid or how they profited or anything. I just knew I was one of those people that would stand outside of a business with a booth and try to get you to sign up for charity. And it was a monthly thing, so they would have to donate either 20, 50, or $100 a month to the specific charity that I was selling. Like I said, I have no idea how that business profited. I was just a salesperson. But that also taught me, when you're selling, you have to believe in what you're selling. Eventually, after a few weeks of it, I didn't believe it anymore. I 100% believe in charity, but I just, like, the things that I didn't really believe in. The monthly thing, a lot of people wanted to do just a one-time donation to charity. Not everybody wanted to do a monthly subscription. I also just kept questioning, how the hell am I even getting paid from this? So I just stopped. I didn't want to do that anymore. And this was coming up around Christmas time, so I had quit that job, and I just got a regular job at the Fleming Steakhouse. I was making $20 an hour as a host. I would just bring people to their seats, and I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do. It was just kind of a placeholder in my life. And in life, you're gonna have a lot of little placeholder moments. There are gonna be moments and little pit stops for where you wanna be in the future. But just don't make that your whole life. A pit stop should never be your whole life. Every time I was at work, it would just kill me thinking I could be in sales, or I could be pushing something hard and making 10K a month. But actually, how I found out about the agency was, ASU is a party school, and I was looking for, I think this was around Halloween, so a little bit of rewind. I was looking for a party, and then my roommate, he had told me about this Snapchat account that threw parties, and I had added them, and I saw them throw parties. But eventually I saw them posting girls, and they're like, new client just signed, welcome to the team, new client. And they would also post themselves handing young guys checks, like checks for $1,600, $2,000, $3,000. And I would just look at it, I would kind of ignore it until late December. This was after Christmas. Christmas, I was just barely able to afford all of my family at least one gift each, luckily. And I also, for the month of December, I had to get help for my bills. I had a car payment, I had insurance. I had to get help for that because I was working at Fleming's, and I had Christmas presents to buy, and so it wasn't a great moment in my life. This was definitely one of my lowest points, because before this I had touched a little bit of money and I had become semi-independent. But when it came to this point, I was just really low on myself, because I knew this is where I didn't want to be. I never wanted to feel like that again. I felt like a failure. And when you feel like a failure, it can either push you harder or it could break you. And you should never let it break you. I never let it break me. So yeah, the Snapchat account would post people, and then one day they posted they were hiring. I swiped up. I had no idea what they were hiring for. I had no idea what the business was. I went to one of the meetings, and that's where I learned it was about OFM, and there was an OnlyFans agency. And then so once I got to the meeting, I was informed about all that, and then I was hired on as a chatter. And then 3 years later, now I'm a manager, and I do marketing, and I also run my own agency as well. So I just want that to show you that we have pit stops in life for sure, and we may hit rock bottom. I definitely felt like I hit rock bottom, and life could always be worse. Rock bottom can be different for everybody. Rock bottom could be losing a job. Rock bottom could be having to go through in a breakup. Rock bottom can be being homeless. Everybody has their own different rock bottom, but my rock bottom was that month, December. It might have been December of 2022, if I'm being exact. I just knew I never wanted to feel that ever again. It changed like my mentality. It transformed me into becoming the person I am today, because I made a promise to myself to never be in that position again in my life. And that turning point mindset is very important, and you have to keep up with that promise you made to yourself. There might be moments in life where you get comfortable. There might be moments in life where you feel like you're still behind, but just make sure you know that you made a promise to yourself, and that turning point, you need to keep that mindset. So once I went to the meeting, I learned about OnlyFans agencies and what we do. They taught me about chatters. They taught me about shout out people. They taught me about how we run the pages. They taught me that we take percentage. I learned the whole spiel, right? And this was a new opportunity that I saw. Honestly, I went into it and I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna learn the system, and I'm just gonna steal all the systems and then quit and do my own thing. But over time, you need help. You need a mentor. You need people that's there to help you and teach you, because there's so much to learn with this. And with OFM, it's an ever-growing thing, and systems change constantly. And you have to always be on track and think ahead with OnlyFans. And that's something that I learned a lot when I first joined. Now, I saw this as a new opportunity to get out of the 9-to-5 path. I wanted to get out of the 9-to-5 so bad. So I made sure not to quit my 9-to-5 until I got my first few paychecks. And that's exactly what I did. After my first few paychecks, I quit. But I saw it as a real opportunity, not another fake opportunity, and a real tangible way of getting some sustainable income and making a name for myself and building something. What also attracted me was I was surrounded by ambitious people and people that actually worked and wanted more for themselves and built a lifestyle that I wanted for myself, you know? Like I was around people that drove nice cars. I was around people that wanted to make a lot of money. I was around people that didn't want to work a 9-to-5, and people who would hang out with girls all the time, high energy lifestyle. It was just a lot of momentum and a lot of money constantly. And this felt different than everything else I had tried, because I was in that environment and it wasn't just me solo. Being in that environment and being surrounded by motivated and hungry people can really reflect onto you. And that's exactly what I needed. And that's exactly what I was able to get, thankfully. And I'm here to show you guys that we can all do this together. Now, day one, I was making sure I was getting trained by the best chatters on the team, people making 20, 30, 40K a week chatting. I was making sure that I was learning their systems. I was making sure that I was coachable. I was making sure that I was just cool with everybody. I was making sure I knew how they made money so I could make money. And I was all in day one. I didn't take it as just clocking in and clocking out. I took this as a real thing that can build into something even greater. You know, I didn't see it as a side hustle. I treated it as my main thing that I wanted to do, because this is really a life that I wanted to live. I wanted to live a fast life. I wanted to be surrounded by ambitious people. I wanted to be surrounded by rich people, by millionaires, by people who make 40K a week, by people who are touching these numbers that I thought were unrealistic before. And I wanted to master the craft and become the best at it, for sure. Now, I wanted to stand out. I wanted to put my name out there. From day one, I made sure I was a lot more professional than all the other guys joining. I made sure I grinded harder. I made sure everybody else around me knew that I was making money. So if I was making money, I would send it to our group chats. I would let everybody know that I was hungry for success, you know, and I wanted to make it clear that I was serious, so other people knew to take me serious as well. And ever since then, everybody's always taken me serious. Everybody always knew that I was a hungry person and a consistent person. Now, this also comes with conflicts and struggles. My girlfriend, when she found out, she hated the idea, because obviously if you're working in this industry, you're going to be seeing things that the girls are posting, because that's what we're selling as well. So she hated the idea of that. She was also, at the time, this is my ex-girlfriend now, but she was a very traditional path person. She believed in going to the school and getting a good job and raising a family and getting life, and I just knew that wasn't for me. So it definitely created tension in the relationship, for sure. But I knew this was the life that I wanted to live, and I wasn't gonna give that up so easily. Now, I was also 18 when I joined, so I had to tell my parents I got a different job. But at first, I didn't tell them exactly what it was. I was embarrassed, and I definitely didn't want to tell them what it was, because I was only 18 years old, and I didn't really know how to explain OFM to them. When you come from a traditional household, all this stuff sounds so new, and it just sounds like something that people would say, like, have you ever heard streamers or YouTubers say their parents said, no, go find a job, don't invest into this? I was scared I was gonna get that same reaction from them. So I didn't know how to bridge the gap from people who only understood the traditional 9 to 5 path to a very risky and entrepreneurial path. Now, this also affected my school. You know, the job wasn't normal hours. I was working all day, every day. I was hungry. I was locked in. I wanted the best. I was treating it. I was taking it very seriously. So I was still working while I was at school, and it affected my schoolwork. You know, eventually I started getting off of the school, and I started taking the job a little bit more seriously because I started seeing actual money come in. And this was money that if you go to university, you're promised, okay, when you get out, you're making $75K a year. And if I'm first joining an agency and I'm already making that, you know, I'm thinking, okay, is it really worth it to keep up with the school? Why can't I just continue to make this money right now? And so that's what I did, is I focused a lot more on the job, and I didn't take school as serious as before, as I should have, and I started falling behind. I was more focused on making money and improving, and eventually it brought me to a crossroad. Now, being at this crossroad, it really led me to sit down with myself and think about my why. You know, think about the life I wanted for myself. Think about my friend who was murdered and the time that he missed out on, the opportunities that he missed out on. Think about me being in December broke, barely affording Christmas presents, and barely like being able to get food for myself. And I refused to go back to that. That's not what I wanted at all. And I saw this as a progressive forward moment, you know. I would rather have the pain of pushing through than the pain of staying the same. And that's not what I wanted. I wanted to always grow and improve. So I made sure I locked in and I took it serious. Around 2 months in, I had a breakthrough moment. You know, I started making $2,000 a week, and I was still going to ASU, and I was starting to make money. And my roommates were broke. They would always ask their parents for money, and my parents were never in the position to just, if I texted them, hey, could I get a couple of thousand, they would never, that would never happen to me. You know, so it was very different for me because my roommates came from a lot more wealthy families, and I was making this on my own, and I felt in a completely different world. I felt like I started to separate, and I just felt in a different world. You know, my confidence exploded. I started to feel like the main character in my life. And that's what everybody should feel like. You should be the main character of your own life. You should not be the side character of your life at all. You should not be the side character of anybody's life. You are the main character. And once I started feeling that, that's a feeling that everybody should get. You know, my confidence was crazy. I was meeting people. I was going to clubs and skipping the line and walking in front of everybody and getting in the club for free and skipping the line and just seeing everybody standing in line for 30 minutes and just thinking, yeah, I'm just above you guys, and I'm at ASU and I'm making $2K a week. And I know that's not anything, but at the time I was a freshman and I'm making $2K a week, and I'm just like, man, I'm doing this on my own. I'm just so much better than everybody else. And you know what? That's okay. Everybody's gonna go through that moment. Everybody's gonna go through that phase. And I think you should absolutely go through that phase, you know. But like at the end of the day, you'll realize you are 100% the main character of your life, and you should build a life that you want to live for yourself. Now, this eventually got me to a really important point in my life. So I was in an impossible position. I was 18, I was making 6 figures, and I was still going to school, but I felt like I didn't have time to do both. You know, my mental state in class was just work. I'm thinking about the agency. I'm thinking about new things, new creative ways to bring in money. I was thinking about new ways to bring fans in. You know, school became a background noise for me. I just felt like the work was a lot more important because it meant something. Not only was I making myself money, I was making these girls money and able to fund their lifestyle. If I wasn't working, then they weren't making money, and that made me feel really important. So when I'm at school and I'm learning, and that's the only thing that's on my mind, is how I need to make money. And not only do I need to make money for myself, there's a lot of people relying on me to make this money. So it made me, I had eventually to make a decision. So I had to stay on the safe traditional path and get a degree and get a job And that's what everybody expected. You know, everybody expects that. Or I can bet on myself, I can go all in on myself, I could take the risk, and I could continue to go on with what's working. And that's what I did. And you know what? It wasn't a hard decision, because I was making money that a lot of people won't touch in their lifetime. I was around people who made a lot more money than me, and that I saw myself making one day. And I was around just the money and the mindset and the lifestyle. Being exposed to it that early made it not a hard decision for me, because why would I sit in class and do the traditional safe path? So eventually, while going to school, I reached an impossible path that I had to eventually make a decision of continuing to go to school or go all in on the business. And honestly, it was the most easiest decision of my life. And I dropped out of school and I just went all in. I was seeing money that kids were going to school for 4 years to make and even barely grasp after they graduate. And I thought this was my chance and opportunity to go all in and make the life for myself that I've always wanted. And that made me to go all into the job. I started making 2K, 3K, 4K, 5K a week. And I was just learning and building and growing. I was getting deep into Telegram. I was learning about the GG swaps that we're going to teach about. I was learning about shout out for shout out systems. I was learning about the back end traffic versus the social media traffic. I was meeting other agencies. I was meeting other managers. I was meeting more clients. I was signing new clients, you know. I was seeing what most agencies ignore. I was just scaling and becoming consistent, and I was creating a competitive edge that everybody needs. That led me to the grind. I was putting in hours. I was literally locked in my room all day, every day, living with roommates, and I was locked in, just working, putting in the grind. I fucking loved the grind. I was studying the game. I was learning from the best people that worked in the industry. I was connecting with other people in the industry who made a lot more money than me, and learning from them and seeing what allows you to grow and become who I wanted to be. Eventually, you know, I started to go solo and sign my own clients and do everything myself. And at first it wasn't easy, because I knew how the systems work, but I wasn't necessarily doing all the jobs. And that's why in life you just have to try things and do things. And at first it won't ever be easy, but eventually it will be easy. And you know, after I signed my first few clients, it just became cookie cutter for me. And it's really just, it becomes more of a flow. You learn the PPVs, you learn the shout out for shout out game, you learn the chatting game, you learn how to talk to and respect a client, you learn how to convince a client to work as much as you work, you know. And it worked and it got results, and now I'm at where I'm at right now. And my first client, she's made over $300,000 now. And I'm really thankful, and she's very thankful for me. And she just recently got her first apartment. She just recently got her first car under her name. She paid off all her taxes. She paid off her mom's taxes. So she's thankful to be where she is right now, and I'm very thankful to be where I am right now. And without each other, we wouldn't have a lot of these things in life, you know? So that's where it really comes in, is you're able to impact other people's lives, and you're able to benefit other people as well while you're making money yourself. Now, I wanted to do things my way. I didn't want to be another cookie cutter alpha guru guy in Miami that people are just so serious and stuff. Like, I'm really cool with all my clients. Me and my clients are all friends, and you got to make sure you respect these people and they will respect you back, you know? And make sure you do things your own way. I have a very bright personality, and I like to showcase that, and that's who I'm going to be, you know? Don't lose yourself in this process. Be yourself, and if while you be yourself and you're making a ton of money, there's nothing that feels better than that. Really, there's nothing. So that led me to being able to make money while I sleep now. You know, I have systems that work 24/7. Like I said, I manage the marketing, I manage the sales, I manage the chat operations, I manage all the strategy, I manage everything when it comes to these girls' pages, and I'm able to now make money while I'm asleep. And that's the goal. That's really the goal, is to create that passive income for yourself. You know, after you create your agency, eventually you're gonna hire chatters. Eventually you're gonna hire assistants that work for the shout outs and get the fans. And eventually everything is gonna be automated, so you're able to sit back, relax on the beach, sip a margarita, and make money. Now, there are strict rules when it comes to having clients like this. You have to make sure you do not harass clients. You do make sure that you do not put clients in vulnerable positions. You have to make sure that you don't take advantage of clients' positions, because I've had a lot of girls come to me and they're in a really rough position and they don't necessarily, OnlyFans isn't what they wanted to do or where they wanted to see themselves in life, but that's what they had to do and they wanted help. And so you have to make sure to not take advantage of them. You have to make sure to just respect them and do what you offer them. You have to make sure that you're able to be there for them and work with them, because if they make money, you make money, and the more money they make, the more money I make. That's how it works. And I have these rules because this is about legacy. This is about changing other people's lives. When you're working in OFM, not only are you making money for yourselves, you're making money for other people, and this affects other people as well. So when you're not working and when your systems aren't working, that person isn't making money. So you have people that rely on you. And honestly, I love that pressure, and you will learn to love that pressure as well. The feeling of other people relying on you, it feels amazing, but you have to also make sure to never hold that above people's heads. You have to be respectful. You have to respect all your clients, and you have to make sure that you have to balance your ambition with heart as well. Now, I'm in Tempe, Arizona. This is right next to Scottsdale, Arizona, and that's one of the biggest growing cities for millionaires. So you can start this wherever you are. You can start this at home. You don't have to move to Miami and be like these gurus and be around all these supermodels or anything. You can start it off with a normal girl that just wants to do it and be the girl next door, and you might have more success than some of these supermodels. Who knows? But at the end of the day, do things your way, create your own systems, use your own creativity, and I promise you, you will succeed. Now, to start wrapping things up, I want you to know that you don't have to wait till you have it all figured out. I never had it all figured out. I still don't have it all figured out. You just have to take action. It's not too late. Even though the OFM market is very saturated right now, with the right systems that I'm gonna provide you, this is how you can still make a lot of money, and you just need the right systems now. Money will follow the value and the leverage that you create. The value that you have to these models that you're able to bring to them, the money will 100% follow. And your why must be bigger than your comfort zone. You must go out of your way to grind 18 hours a day, to barely sleep for 4 hours, to make sure you're always learning and improving. Your why must be bigger. You have to go out of your comfort zone to meet new people and talk to new people and ask, okay, how do you do what you do? And not be afraid to ask questions and not be afraid to learn. Your why must be bigger than your comfort, and that's how you grow, and that's how you become who you want to be in life. And there's a few common myths that I have to bust, like some people say you need to be rich to start, which is bullshit. I started with nothing. You can still start with nothing today, and I'm going to show you exactly how you can start with nothing within our platform here. And people also say that OF doesn't make money anymore, which is bullshit. I have examples right here and right here that will show you that OFM still makes a lot of money. And the biggest lie of all is that you're too late. It is never too late. Like I said, with the right systems that I can provide you, it will never be too late to start making money from OFM. So yeah, that was the full story. I appreciate you for watching this video. We are just getting started. I have a lot of systems and a lot of growing and a lot of things to teach. And if you have any questions about what I've talked about, you can DM me on Instagram. My Instagram is right here. And I'm pretty active, and I'll respond when I can. I'll always respond to you, so just DM me on Instagram. Even if you have questions about my journey or anything, you could just DM me there. This is an open invitation for serious people. If you're serious about getting into this, if you're serious about making money with this, or even OFM or making online money in general, just reach out. I'm not selling anything, but if you're genuinely hungry and you want to know how I did it, of course, reach out, just open to talking, and let's just shoot me a message. Let's have a conversation. I want to show people what's possible when you bet on yourself and you take yourself seriously. So I appreciate you, and let's build together.